So with the reveal of Fami being the Death Devil all along and her finally beginning to make moves in her plan of stopping the apocalypse, we do cut back to Denji and Asa and how they are handling their final days on Earth. We know now that the Death Devil is on our side for the most part, right? The Death Devil has managed to fall in love with the joys and pleasures of living and humanity. She loves pizza, she loves ice cream, and for some reason she also enjoys having friends and doing school festivals. She has fully immersed herself in the world of being a teenage girl, and that could either be a really good thing for us because having the Death Devil want to not cause the apocalypse gives us an even better chance of stopping it. Whereas before we were under the impression that Asa, Denji, and even public safety and whoever else was against the end of the world was going to have to fight the Death Devil to the best of their ability. And, obviously considering that the Death Devil is supposedly the strongest devil of all time, to the point that every single high-ranking devil will appear on Earth the moment that the Death Devil fully awakens, that was a little hard to believe. And it's why we spent most of Chainsaw Man Part 2 with public safety and even Fami, who was really the Death Devil, doing the best they could to level up Denji, level up Asa, and make them as strong as they could be for the chance that they can stop the apocalypse. As of right now, we really don't know how Chainsaw Man Part 2 is going to come to an end. With the Death Devil potentially wanting to end her own life and having the possibility of being eaten by Chainsaw Man, which is what the Famine Devil brought up to her before, maybe that could be an ending, but from what we've seen in the Aging Devil arc, eating devils and erasing them from existence does not always work the way that we think they should. We really don't know what to expect. And honestly, I think watching Denji and Asa's way of handling the apocalypse, or at least the incoming apocalypse, is the best possible way they could have ever handled it. Because despite this chapter being named Toxic Couple and Asa claiming that now she is a toxic woman, it's very clear that Denji and Asa being together in this sort of relationship is best for the both of them. Not only is it good for Asa because, as she mentions, when she was alone, she would always be thinking of the worst possible thing, the worst possible thoughts that are going on in the world. Why do they put all of this terrible shit in the food that I eat? Why are people poor and going starving and hungry? And most importantly, to a teenage girl like Asa in high school, that we already know her personality is someone not narcissistic, but very self-centered. She feels that she's the only one going through struggle. Everyone else in life just has the easiest time in the world. And Asa realizes that, hey, you know what? I was pretty selfish. Me thinking that I was the only one going through struggle. I was the only one that had to deal with terrible things and everyone else was just out here living their best lives. I was wrong. Everyone has rough patches in life. It's just they do their best to not think about it. They do their best to not, push it aside and not deal with their emotions, but just roll with the punches, keep moving forward. And that's something that Asa was constantly fighting against, pushing forward, pushing on despite your terrible situation. Her survivor's guilt, feeling guilty for her mom, getting stuck in the orphanage with the cat, and all of that happening. She has constantly felt like the world was against her, when come to find out, the world is against everyone. She isn't special for that. And it's time to just take the life that she has and just keep on living. And as Asa and Denji just waste away their final days doing the best they can, it does show how much these characters are able to bounce off of each other and create joy for one another. Asa normally wouldn't eat convenience store food like this. Asa normally would be staying inside and hiding away from the sun because of sunburn. But with Denji, she doesn't have to think about any of that stuff. Denji makes her feel okay with who she is. And even though she thinks that, it's toxic, at the end of the day, she admits that she's having fun. For once, she's not constantly dwelling on all of the terrible things in life. And you also see a little bit of how Denji and Yoru interact because Asa immediately switches over to Yoru. Are Asa and Yoru cool? Are they still just not talking to each other and just taking over different parts? Like, hey, you take the morning, I take the afternoon and nighttime. It's unclear how Asa and Yoru have handled their opposing values now while they exhibit the same body. But Denji, on the other hand, is just getting the best of both worlds because he has Asa, who is able to relate to Denji on an emotional level, and then he has Yoru, who's able to relate to him on a physical level in more ways than one, because just the scene of them riding the bike and Yoru, firing and killing all of the Chainsaw Man people while they laugh and just have such a good time. You see this panel of Yoru just grabbing Denji from behind as they both laugh, and a decapitated head is in their basket. And while it is morbid and gory as hell, it's also some of the most romantic shit that Denji has ever experienced. However, we're just gonna have to wait and see what comes from all of this, because the Death Devil's plans are once again getting in the way of Denji and Asa's happiness, as Fake Chainsaw Man, wearing his cape of intestines and just gore, just viscera, is right in front of Denji and Asa's way and stops them right in their tracks as they fall over from the bike. He is able to just deflect Yoru's bang shot, which either means that Fake Chainsaw Man is a fucking problem and he's going to be a big fight for us to deal with, or that cape is just has magical powers and Fake Chainsaw Man is just breaking down the series art as possible. Because this quick little scuffle we do get, I won't lie, it's a little tough to follow. But Fujimoto's art is not why I read Chainsaw Man. Fujimoto's story, his characters, his dialogue, and his plot are. And I am excited to see how Chainsaw Man interacts with Fake Saw Man, this simulacrum of everything that Chainsaw Man is supposed to be, right? Seeing how Denji, the person, interacts with this persona that he has created, that he has helped mold in the public's eye. I know a lot of people still are unaware of whether this is a devil born from the simulacra of Chainsaw Man, or if this is just the Justice Devil taking a very specific form under the Death Devil's wishes. But what we do know, this devil, whatever it is, this anomaly, is directly opposed with what Denji actually stands for. Because he says, hey, would you really be flirting with a girl? Would you really be, riding a bicycle and having fun? Like, you are the warrior from hell that executes people and eats devils and saves everyone. And you can also see some of the fanaticism that the Four Horsemen have for Chainsaw Man in this Fake Saw Man as well, right? Makima, the same things that Makima said, the hero of hell, the executioner of hell. Death Devil literally has Chainsaw Man earrings on. This solitary warrior from hell is now going up against the human piece, the Denji, the one who's like, that's not who I am. Like, you think that's what I am, but that's what I just portray to the media. That's what I wanted y'all to think of me. And I think that's also an interesting dynamic for Denji to go through, because now he has to face everything that he once was, everything that he previously wanted to be. Does Denji really want to be this hero for everybody? Or was that never what he wanted in the first place? Was he misguided? Was he wrong entirely? So I think while this battle is definitely going to be an interesting one, finally placing Fake Saw Man up against the real Denji, I think the philosophy behind it and the themes and symbolism is what's going to shine through the most. Because again, pitting Denji up against everything he thought he wanted to be will be interesting to see how that affects his mentality going forward, and how this sets up the next, stage of the final arc. Is the Famine Devil now going to intervene? How are Yoru and Famine going to interact? Is Famine now empowered now that they are controlled by the Death Devil? There are multiple different questions that I have in regards to this, especially what Fake Saw Man is asking Denji about when he asks, are you aware of the mistake that you have made? Either way, I'm super interested to see what happens. Now that we have moved on from the Death Devil reveal and are finally having Denji and Asa get back involved in the story, how are these two characters that have now found, not enlightenment, but they have found peace, in this, what remains of the world? How is what still is left of Denji's and Asa's past, Fake Saw Man, public safety, and the Death Devil's apocalypse going to change these two characters that, again, have now finally had one moment of reprieve and happiness amongst an entire, hundreds of chapters worth of just depression? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Hit that like button as well and subscribe so you don't miss any future Chainsaw Man videos. We are going on break next week, but I hope you all have an amazing holiday, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to check out the main channel if you want some extra content, or don't. That's okay too. I appreciate you watching, and I love you guys, and have a great rest of the day. Peace, 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 peace.